Ata Deshmaya, Shabbos Parshas Vayigash, Tes Tevis, Tavshin Mem Zayin. So over here in this mimer, he goes straight to the Haftorah. The previous Mamarim we were talking on the Parsha. Here he's going to talk about the Haftorah. And he's going to contrast the differences that we have in the Haftorah versus what goes on in our Parsha. So he says, "Va'avdi David Nasal Leim Lo'ilam," that my servant David is a leader over them. Va'avdi Melech Aleim, my servant David will be a king over them. V'roya Echad Yelakulam, and there will be only one shepherd for all of them, instead of the way it was divided into two kingdoms. And you had the Melech of the Yehuda and Binyamin, and the king of the Asar Shvatim, which we find about Haftarah's Parshas Vayigash. We speak about it over there. It's known the Maimer, my father-in-law, the leader of our generation, on this pasuk, shekvar nitfas b'lashoinoi oisius harav. The Maimer was already printed in the exact way how the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe said it, and the significance of a Maimer being printed that way is that when you study the Maimer in such a manner, v'oises machkimois, and the letters make one wise. The Chazal say that looking at the letters, seeing what the letters say, that makes a person smarter, wiser, etc., than just hearing it. It seems to me that the Rebbe is saying, in a similar vein, don't just hear the Maimer the way I am relating it to you, but it's printed already. Study the Maimer, look at it inside, and you will learn stuff that even though I'm repeating the Maimer to you, you will get new insights and new things from just studying this Maimer inside of the Frierdiker Rebbe. That the Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe, begins with the question, Lama miyachsim es melech HaMashiach leDavid HaMelech ol v'sholem v'karnos b'shem David. Why do we put and emphasize and relate the idea of King Mashiach to David HaMelech? And we're calling him by the name David. Why doesn't it just say that Mashiach will be a king over them? Why this type of very unusual type of expression and use the word David to indicate Mashiach? So now the Rebbe just inserts a very interesting tangential idea, and that is, why the need to start with why? The point of Mamarim, the Rebbe said many times, is not to explain questions. The point of a Maimer is to explain things in Avodas Hashem, to explain different things on the spiritual plane. The beginning of the Maimer that asks a question, and the end of the Maimer, the Rebbe says, is more like an ID card, so you should be able to identify the Maimer, or it's a hook to hang the topics of the Maimer upon. So the Rebbe says, why do it that way? There are Mamarim more common, more found, let's say, by Mamarim of the Alter Rebbe, where it will just go straight into the concept. Lahavin inyan akudim nekudim avrudim, to be able to understand the idea of these particular levels of akudim nekudim avrudim. But the majority of Mamarim begin with a pasuk in Chumash or a Maimer Chazal, less common, and then ask the question. So the Rebbe says in the brackets, we can explain the fact that the Maimer begins with a question. And similar to this, I'm not just asking on this Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe, but many Mamar Chassidus that begin with questions. So the Rebbe says a very practical thing. Mishum shaila, when there's a question, azai habir shala achreze yesh beyoser tainug v'chayis geshmaker. So then the explanation that follows it has in it more enjoyment, more pleasure, and more geshmak, like he says, it has more vitality to it. If you just go in and you start explaining, there is a Srusla Sata, a Srusla Eila, and that's what Yosef is, and that was last week's parsha, and the Srusla Sata of Yehuda. It's not the same as when you ask a question and gets your mind thinking. I'll just add something that personally I also found by Fabrengens, that when the Rebbe asked questions, those part of Fabrengens where the Rebbe asked questions, it was much easier to concentrate, because there was like I said, there's a hook to hold on to, there's a question and there's an answer. It's going back and forth. But that's not the point he's saying over here. The point he's saying over here is that the question makes the answer more geschmack than if you didn't have a question beforehand. In addition to this, when you explain something that is difficult, so then you have the advantage of the greater light that comes out of darkness. Because when a person studies something and it goes smooth, so that's fine, that's okay. His mind is illuminated by the topic that he's studying. But if he studies it in such a type of way that he has a difficulty, whatever it is, any type of topic, you open up a Gemara, you open up a Pasuk Chumash, you open up a Maimer Chassidus, a Sicha, whatever, and you don't understand, you're scratching your head and you're working on it, and then you come up with the idea, the light that impacts you, your mind lights up, is so much more powerful, because the famous rule of the greater light that comes out of the darkness, which is called Milas or Chayzer in terms of Kabbalah and Chassidus, this is the advantage of the rebounding light. It also has the quality of you desire the actions of your hand. If you are figuring out something that was difficult before, so then you are contributing to the process. You're not just a receiver. And because you are contributing to the process, it makes it that much more interesting and a greater powerful insight. And this idea that Rebbe always talks about, for example, is the difference between Talmud Bavli and Talmud Yerushalmi. Talmud Yerushalmi doesn't have that many questions. And the halach is like Talmud Bavli, that's considered b'machshaki meshivani, because he placed me in darkness. And that darkness, because of the many questions and all the difficulties and the give and take and back and forth, that's what the halach is. Because with that one reaches a greater insight. So the same thing that Rebbe says, by beginning a mimer with a question or a series of questions, so then in addition to being more geschmack, one gets to a deeper insight of the topic than if one were just to discuss the topic directly without a question, without a difficulty. After the parentheses, Sham, and the Frierdiker Rebbe continues over there. That what it says in the pasuk, that there will be one shepherd for all of them. The intention in this is that they will not be divided anymore into two kingdoms, like it was the kingdom of Yehuda and the kingdom of Daser Sashvatim. Like it says in the Psuki Haftorah before, it says that it says take for you one piece of wood, and write in it to Yehuda and the children of Yisrael, his colleagues, and write on the other piece of wood for Yosef, a piece of wood of Ephraim, and all the house of Yisrael, his colleagues. And then he now says Yosef, I should be ad Ephraim, v'shifti Yisrael chavedo. Behold, I'm taking the wood of Yosef, that's by hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Yisrael, his colleagues. V'nasati oisam all of us eis Yehuda v'asisim leitzachad v'yachad biyadi, and I will place them upon them the piece of wood that says Yehuda, and I will make them join together to be one piece of wood, and they will be one in my hand. So that's the same idea that it says V'hoya raya echad lekulam, that there will be one shepherd for all.